So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcoming the representation of Poland to the EU at this very timely event and discussion on the development of wind energy, which we hope will not only contribute to increase our energy independence from Russia, but will be very healthy for our environment and our economies. So Poland, we had never the illusion about Russia. Since years, since decades, we were raising the question of the threat, and we were warning that Russia is using energy as a weapon. And as a priority, EU needs to structurally separate itself from Russian supplies of all sources of energy, electricity, gas, oil, and petroleum products. 2 weeks ago, on the 30th of August, during the Baltic Sea Energy Security Summit in Denmark, leaders, Prime Minister of Poland and leaders of 8 EU countries, namely Denmark, Estonia, Finland, Germany, Latvia, Lithuania, and Sweden, agreed to increase offshore wind power generation capacity in the Baltic Sea region. Madam President of the European Commission, Madam Ursula von der Leyen was also attending this important event. So, taking that opportunity, let me now especially welcome the speakers in our debate. Ms. Jurga Kasputiana, Deputy Permanent Representative of Lithuania to EU, Ms. Wanda Buk, Vice President of the Polish Energy Group, Ms. Anka Julia Cimpaneu, Deputy Head of Unit of Infrastructure and Regional Cooperation at the European Commission, Ms. Małgorzata Bartosik, Deputy CEO representing Wind Europe, Mr. Bruce Douglas, Director for Business and Communication and Euroelectric, and Mr. Matthew James, Editor-in-Chief at Energy Post, who will be moderating our discussion today. So, colleagues, I wish you a fruitful discussion, which will contribute to the development of wind energy in the Baltic Sea region. Thank you. James.
Thank you. I'll take this one. Am I switched on? Can you hear me? Can you hear me anyway? Welcome. Yes, I'm Matthew James. I'm the owner of Energy Post. I'm delighted to be back in Brussels after 2 years, at least, I think, since we've been down here to moderate or run an event due to for obvious reasons. And as the ambassador said, what an incredible time to be talking about energy, and the panel that we have today are in a brilliant position to be able to give us some useful insights into how we might be able to take advantage with regard to the growth of offshore wind of the current situation with new pressures. With these pressures come new opportunities. Specifically in the Baltic, we're talking about 90 gigawatts of wind being available to be developed. PGE, the PGE themselves looking to develop 6 gigawatts, increasing their capacity in the region. The drivers have changed because of what's going on at the moment. The drivers are less dependence on gas, energy independence for opportunities for different nations around Europe, but also right now the ability to make profit from sustainable green energy like never before. And I guess the thing that we want to discuss today is, well, how can we best take advantage of these conditions? How can we make sure that wind alongside other renewable energies is developed at a pace, the pace that we all need it to. Ambassador, you've already brilliantly introduced the panel. I won't run through all the names again just now, but first of all, we're going to see some presentations from all our speakers, and we're going to begin with Anka Julia, is it Chempianu? Do I pronounce it correctly? Is that good enough? Anka is the Deputy Head of Unit, DG Energy C4. That's the bit for those of you who are not the policy wonks. That's infrastructure and regional cooperation. Anka, I hand it to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Matthew. Thank you very much, Ambassador. I think the Ambassador created very well the context. Actually, we're here because 2 years ago, Poland kickstarted offshore wind cooperation in the Baltic Sea by the Declaration of Szczecin. 2 weeks ago, we had the continuation of this with the Baltic Sea Energy Security Summit, and we're focusing on all the aspects into the implementation of these initiatives. So I'm Deputy Head of Unit in Unit C4 in DG Energy. We deal with infrastructure, energy infrastructure, and regional cooperation. And I'm in charge of the very high-level group. BEMIP stands for Baltic Energy Market Interconnection Plan. It's actually the fora for regional cooperation in the field of energy in the Baltic Sea. It's quite old. It was started in 2008. So just to say that the Baltic Sea really has a huge tradition in regional cooperation in the field of energy, and you had on the slide a couple of the achievements that have happened so far. I will not dwell on them. Then in 2015, the scope of the regional cooperation was extended to include renewable energy, and this, of course, includes everything that has relation with offshore renewable energy. And for the first time, the BEMIP action plan that was adopted in April 2021 addresses offshore wind. This was reinforced with the study that was completed in June 2019, and this is the famous study that everybody quotes, which showed that the potential of the Baltic Sea might reach up to 93 gigawatts. Just to say that I've heard many saying that this is a conservative study based on conservative assumptions, so there might be more, but even 93 gigawatts is amazing if they are implemented by 2050. So as I mentioned, reinforced cooperation in the area of offshore wind started in December 2020 at the initiative of Poland in Szczecin. This has led to the creation of a specific working group within BEMIP that deals with offshore wind, and we have adopted already the first work program in October last year, which has 4 chapters: coordinated offshore grid, maritime special planning, focusing on offshore wind development. And here we are working together with Poland as a partner, as a co-chair. Cooperation on enabling appropriate financing, where we are working together with Estonia as a co-chair, and the acceleration of specific Baltic offshore projects and of permitting. Then, of course, as the ambassador already mentioned, we had a recent development in the sense of strengthened regional cooperation at the highest level on the 30th of August in Denmark with the Baltic Sea Summit, where our leaders, the leaders of the member states around the Baltic Sea, together with the president of the Commission and the Energy Commissioner, agreed to speed up the phase out of Russian energy, increase the offshore wind energy capacity by 2030 by 7 times. So they agreed to 19.6 gigawatts, out of which indeed Poland has a major share with 5.9 gigawatts. Agreed to replace Russian energy with increased imports of liquefied natural gas, and to explore joint cross-border renewable energy projects and identify the infrastructure needs to enable the integration of renewable energy. And linking to the infrastructure needs, I should also mention that the new TEN-E regulation, which focuses on the development of crucial energy grids projects in the EU, now foresees specific offshore provisions, operationalizing the EU strategy for offshore renewables, which was published in 2020. So the 10E now includes new infrastructure categories for hybrid offshore grids projects and offshore radial lines. These are point-to-point connection projects to implement the 5 offshore priority corridors across the EU, and where appropriate, hydrogen projects can also be included in these corridors to reflect sector integration opportunities. It includes specific provisions on offshore grid planning, enhanced regulatory tools for offshore grids, and as well permitting provisions aiming to accelerate implementation. And this would be all from my side in the introduction. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Julia. We'd now like to move on to Bruce Dickinson. Bruce Douglas. I beg your pardon, Bruce. Bruce is Business and Communications Director at Eurelectric. Bruce.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Matthew. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, Ambassador, and thank you to Wind Europe and PGE for inviting me to speak here today. Unfortunately, from Eurelectric's perspective, we don't have good news about the power sector in Europe. This is an analysis we launched last week. You'll find much more information on our website. I'm going to give you a few highlights, but the best case is bad, and the worst case is catastrophic if we don't get it right before the winter. We're being honest because the figures speak for themselves. Do you have the clicker?
Yes.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. Maybe you could advance them. If not, I could just speak through. Okay. So the headlines from the report we did was about the harsh reality we face today and what we can do going forward to try and solve that. In the context of today's meeting, offshore wind represents an enormous opportunity for Europe. Pointing to the 90 gigawatts of potential in the Baltic Sea, we estimate that would be equivalent to approximately 40% of imports of Russian gas going forward. So you see the opportunity. Unfortunately, the current status of the power sector in Europe, given the huge increase in gas prices, means that the power prices have also increased. This is from August this year, and you see over 500% increase in the wholesale price of electricity currently. And if you look at today's day-ahead price, it's about the same, somewhere between 200 and 400, depending which country you're in, mainly caused by the increase in gas prices. If you focus on the generation of electricity, we're also seeing enormous disruption in the market, so the mix of technologies. On the good side, you see large increase in both wind and solar generation, as well as coal, unfortunately, on the climate side. But on the bad side, what you see is a huge reduction in both hydro and nuclear. Hydro, mainly because of the drought, the climate change issue. This summer, we faced huge droughts across Europe, and nuclear as well also faced constraints because of the droughts. Also some ongoing maintenance, mainly in France, on the nuclear capacity. So you see net, there's a slight decrease in the generation capacity, but that change also adds a lot of uncertainty into the mix. But another future is possible. And this is what we're presenting in the power barometer, is what can be done to decarbonize the power sector. And a lot has been done already. So between 2000 and today, we've already dramatically decreased the CO2 intensity of the grid, but a lot more can be done. And we believe that we can get CO2 neutral by 2035 or just shortly afterwards for the EU power sector. However, more investment needs to be done. As you see here, the trends look good, yeah, but what we need is much, much higher. And here I'm focusing on distribution grids. Now, why distribution grids? Because the increase in renewable capacity, 70% of that will be connected to the distribution grids. And not only that, the electrification that we will see going forward, so electric mobility, but also electric buildings through heat pumps, will also be at that decentralized distribution grid level. So these are the figures we estimate we would need in order to effectively transition to an electrified and decarbonized Europe. You see, currently we're actually at 10% increase per year. We actually need to go to 40% annual increase in investments per year. And electrification across Europe is also stagnating. So this does not help the picture. What we need to see is a large increase in electrification, up to 34%, we estimate, by 2030. But the Commission's new Repower EU has pushed their figure up to 33. So the Commission, again, is being highly progressive on this electrification strategy, and we need to follow that path. This is the last slide to show you the 6 enablers that we see in order to do that. Of course, offshore wind is part of all of them in decarbonizing, on electrifying, strengthening the grids, securing investments, and protecting customers. Of course, the last one, save energy, we've added that because currently we need to save both gas and electricity if we're to survive through the winter without huge constraints, either gas rationing or rolling blackouts. So now is the time to act, and we look to the Commission tomorrow, maybe Wednesday, for an announcement about what they're going to do on the energy price crisis. Happy to take questions on that afterwards. Thanks. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Bruce. Bruce Douglas from Euroelectric. Before we move on, before we move on to the next presentation, just to remind everybody that the question and answer session that will follow this, it's not just those of you who've joined us in the room. Welcome to all of you. It is also for those people who weren't able to make it to the MC today in person, but have joined us online. I'm hoping that those people who are watching online, not to feel left out, please do send your questions in. They will get to me, and I will try and come to those of you watching online as well with the relevant questions for the Q&A session later. So now our next presentation, and the next speaker is Małgosia Bartosik, is from she's Deputy CEO at Wind Europe, and we've seen the big picture on electrification and electricity in general. Małgosia, we'd like to hear from you the challenges or opportunities for wind in particular. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the invitation. Bruce gave us this bad or catastrophic scenario, and we shouldn't be discussing it whether it's right or wrong. We should be acting on it. Because to make this transformational change happen, we really need, we cannot be afraid. We really need to be taking bold, sometimes difficult decisions that are involving trade-offs and risks. And sometimes we will fail, but only this way we can succeed. And we need people that will look into the future with passion, with ideas to create new solutions. We need scientists, engineers, we need businesses, finance, and policy people all working together to reach this goal. Then the crisis can be indeed turned into an opportunity, like it happened back in early 1970s in Denmark, when the oil crisis actually pushed the scientists there to look for locally produced clean energy from wind. What started 50 years ago, today is a mature, reliable technology that works. Where is wind today? So wind today is 15% of Europe's electricity demand with 236 gigawatts installed. It is 9% of electricity demand in countries like Poland, but then it's 45% in Denmark, it's 31% in Ireland, Portugal, Spain, they also have much higher numbers. The IEA expects that wind will be #1 of power in Europe by 2027. Most wind farms are built on land, but as you know, offshore has very rapidly developed. Offshore wind today is 3% of Europe's electricity demand. We have 28 gigawatts connected in 12 countries in 122 wind farms. Where are all those wind farms? So right now they are on the north of Europe. You can see here on the map. And that's why that's where we are close to the demand, but also there are very efficient, effective supply chains over there. But with the advances in technology, like floating wind, for example, now actually we are also going to see much more of offshore wind developed in deep waters, in the Mediterranean, for example, where we can deploy that technology, and where the bottom peaks would be maybe not impossible, but much more difficult and expensive. If we look at the Baltic, I'm not going to focus on that during the presentation, but Anka already has mentioned the Baltic Declaration, the Maribor Declaration, with much higher targets for the Baltic seas. The picture looks very rosy, but everyone is creating targets and everyone has a very high ambition, but the targets are not going to deliver. They are not going to deliver on its own. We need a very concrete action to make it happen. And what we may need to think about is about permitting, about speeding up permitting processes. And when I talk about permitting, it's not necessarily talking about about local populations that are opposing to offshore wind. We're mainly talking about administrative processes, about very lengthy and complex procedures. We also need to look at the supply chain. The European supply chain is struggling. Right now, we have 5 OEMs, 5 manufacturers for wind turbines in Europe. All of them are operating at loss, all of them. But when we talk about supply chain, it's also about ports, about infrastructures, about logistics, about vessels. With all those huge volumes that we need to deploy in a very short time, are we ready? I mean, do we have the right infrastructure, logistics, supply chains that are there to deliver? Cross-border cooperation is also very important. We have already Germany and Denmark that has shown that cross-border offshore wind projects are possible. And Denmark has also much higher ambition now in connecting their offshore wind farms to German grids too. And hybrid projects, they ensure the hybrid projects, they are going to ensure more energy security by improving the electricity flows. And when you look at countries like Poland, where they are not so well connected with the rest of European grid, doing this at the hybrid projects, investing in those hybrid projects is going to help to bring down the prices. And what is also very important, we cannot forget about that, is of course looking and working together, cooperating with all the sea users. Yeah, it's a huge infrastructure project, offshore wind, and we need to make sure that all the different interests are taken into consideration, and we can make it a successful project for all of us. So huge challenges in front of us, but there are many opportunities. And if we do it right, if we work together, we can definitely be much more successful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Malgosia from Wind Europe. We'll be coming back to you with questions. Next, I would like to bring to the stage Jurga Kasputiene, Deputy Ambassador to the EU from Lithuania. We've heard general picture, but honing in on winds. We've talked about collaboration, cross-border. Malgosia was just talking about. Jurga, how does it look from Lithuania? What are your ambitions for wind? Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you our Polish colleagues for organizing this event. I think it is as relevant as ever, given the current situation in the energy market and the electricity market in particular. We have the broad picture of the situation around the Baltic, and we saw in the map just presented that the development of the offshore wind opportunities. Is correct? Okay. I'm sorry, I started to speak, but you didn't miss. So we just saw that in the map that the potential for the offshore wind power generation in the eastern part of the Baltic is big, but it's not yet harnessed. So I would like maybe to present the situation in Lithuania, how we are planning to use this opportunity. First of all, maybe I have to mention that Lithuania used to be an energy exporting country, but after closing the nuclear power station, we are net importer, and we import around 70% of the electricity that we need. And the ambition is to revert this trend and to become exporter again by 2030. Already now, 56% of our electricity generation is from renewable sources. We want to achieve 100% renewable electricity by 2045. And wind generation is, of course, a very important part of the puzzle in this plan. The government is very busy putting in place, first of all, a regulatory framework. This summer, the big package of amendments was adopted to accelerate the renewable electricity power generation and simplify administrative procedures for permits and environmental impact assessment, improving investment environment, strengthen renewable energy communities, establish clearer conditions and requirements for the connection to the grid. All these measures were taken even before Commission presented its Repower EU package. I'm sorry, just that slide. We estimate that our potential of the offshore sea wind is 3.35 gigawatts. And already in 2020, government taken decision to develop the first offshore wind project of 700 megawatts in the Baltic Sea and allocated the territory for development. In this year, the laws were prepared on offshore project support scheme and connection model. And of course, the support scheme is yet to be approved by the European Commission. And currently, many preparatory works are in progress. It is the special territory planning, environmental impact assessment, measurement of wind speed, and other parameters, including the seabed characteristics. All these works are necessary to enable potential tender participants to offer competitive prices. And it is expected that the first tender is to be announced by the September of 2023 at the latest. We expect maybe that this calendar could be put forward, and we expect that electricity production could be started in 2028. According to the draft law, the developer will be responsible for the connection of the offshore wind project to onshore grids, and offshore tender winner will be issued permit to use certain territory for offshore wind work, park development, and operation for 41 years. During this permit validity period, the developer will have to design the project, obtain construction permit, as well as construct the offshore wind farms and obtain permit to generate electricity. Support will be allocated at tenders via the contract for difference model, and it will be granted for 15 years. The main parameters and gains of this project, we expect that the territory which is available to generate this 3.35 gigawatts potential is divided into 4 parts. And all in all, it is expected to have 4 wind power parks. And the selected territory is at the distance of 30-40 kilometers to the shore, and the wind speed is there 9-10 meters per second, and depth is of the seabed is 30-40 meters. Preliminary assessment showed that the project will attract over 1 billion euro investments, create over 1,300 new jobs. Each year, over 8 million euros taxes will be collected. And the project will have positive impact on development of transport and building sectors, as well as development of Klaipėda seaport, and will help to decrease electricity imports up to 30%. It is expected also that the concept of further offshore wind development will be prepared and approved by the end of this year. So, of course, these ambitions are great, and there's a very complex project, but this current situation in the market and the green transition ambitions that we have in the EU. We are very optimistic to achieve our ambitions in time and within the limits of our expectations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy Permanent Representative Jurga Kasputiene of Lithuania. Thank you very much. We're now coming towards the end of the presentations. I'd like to introduce Wanda Book, who's the Deputy CEO at PGE, largest electricity generator in Poland, but also, as we've heard already, a significant investor in the Baltic, with projects underway and committed to already, which will be running by 2030, and more in the pipeline. Wanda, I hand over to you to hear about your plans. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy that you are all here together with us. I want to put you in the picture of the PGE perspective when it comes to offshore investments, and to put in the picture of the whole investment environment when it comes to offshore wind farms on the Baltic Sea. Well, actually, this discussion is timely as never before, especially after the Russian invasion over Ukraine. That obviously everyone knows has changed everything, but also I think that everyone agree with me that Baltic Sea potential, which is over 93 gigawatts, is immensely significant, and we have to do our best to set the right pace and to speed up our investments. Okay. I will briefly introduce our company. PGE is the biggest Polish energy entity. We are right now generating over 40% of electricity in Poland. We deliver energy to over 5.5 million customers in Poland. But also we were the first Polish energy utility that announced a green strategy and climate neutrality by 2050, and that resulted in a 10% share in renewables market already in Poland. We are doing our best to speed up and deliver more, because as you said, Małgosia, it's not only about setting the targets, but it's also about delivering them in the fastest possible way. So we find ourselves the leader of the energy transition in Poland. Actually, we are already started our investments into offshore wind farms, and we're going to deliver 2.5 gigawatts in offshore till 2030. It's not the end. We have bigger ambitions, and still by 2040 want to deliver over 6 gigawatts in total on the Baltic Sea. But also we are deploying more and more onshore wind power plants. We're gonna reach over 1.5 gigawatts till 2030, and then also 3 gigawatts in photovoltaics. So we, as I already said, these targets are very, very ambitious, but we are doing our best to deliver, and we find that we will manage it even faster than expected in the past. So to put you in a little wider context of the national energy policy in Poland, until 2040, Poland has set a target to deliver 5.9 gigawatts of offshore wind farm capacity, and then 11 gigawatts by 2030. These targets were set before Russian invasion over Ukraine, and right now, not only administration, but also the industry is working on reassessing installed capacity potential of Polish offshore wind to update EPP by and deliver more by 2040. Okay, so how it looks for us today. We already launched investment into 3 projects. 2 of them are we are carrying on together with our Danish partner Ørsted, and these are the most advanced project. We already started the most significant tenders, and we want to make them operable by 2026 when it comes to Baltica 3 and 2027 when it comes to Baltica 2. But also we have one project that we want to use our experience from this one, and this is Baltica 1. We're going to deliver almost 1 gigawatt in by the end of 2030. So don't ask me why we started to deliver with 3 and then go for 2 and with 1. Sorry, I don't know the etymology for that, but let's not dig into. So you can see on the slide how much they are advanced already. As I said, when it comes to Baltica 2 and the Baltica 3, we already have all the documentation prepared. We have already tenders announced, and we are following with Baltica 1 with having a local permit, grid connection agreement. We already started our assessment process for environmental decision. When it comes for Baltica 2 and Baltica 3, the support scheme has been approved by the Commission. It's covered with the contract for difference, and which cover all around 40% of that total of the investment. It's not the end because, as I said, we have already permission for over 3 gigawatts in Baltica 2, 3, and 1. But we are applying for more. Right now in Poland, there is ongoing procedure to get another permit. So we want to develop, we want to deliver 6.5 by 2040, and yeah, we did our best submitting the best possible application that we could, and we are waiting for the final results of the Ministry of Infrastructure. Yes, and basically this is what I wanted to tell you. I think that everyone can agree that the potential of the wind farms is crucial, and to exercise the potential of the wind of the Baltic Sea, it's crucial to transformation, and we have to do our best to set the right pace because we were preparing for the for offshore wind farms development for so many years when it comes to the regulatory issue, when it comes to building partnerships. Also, I can tell you from our perspective, because the preparation work for setting partnership with partner who has already experience in the offshore took so long, but now we cannot longer wait. We have to do our best to deliver soon. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Mondo. Don't run away. You can take your seat on the panel now.
I can choose now.
You've got first choice. Yeah.
Great. Okay.
If I could ask all our speakers to come and find a seat. Thank you. So I'm sure you all have some questions. I'm going to start off with a couple that have come to my mind. First of all, I'd like to ask, really of your lecture, Wind Europe and also the Commission, just the significance of the capacities that are available in the Baltic. So that was the first thing. In the sort of broader, for example, compared with the North Sea, the opportunity there. You've talked about 90 gigawatts. Anka, you've already intimated that actually it might be a lot more than it could be a lot more than that. So that was the first thing, and then there's a subsidiary question. We've heard today about PGE's ambitions, and we've also heard a little bit from the Lithuanian plans. By my calculation, what I picked up, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're talking about 10 gigawatts in total, potentially across the 2 participants that we talked to today. So how much of that 90 gigawatt capacity or more can we expect to be used? and by when? Or should we be using it by when? So that's a question for Anke, Malgosia, and perhaps for Bruce also. But Anke, perhaps I come to you first on that one. How significant is the Baltic, and how much of its capacity can we expect to be seen to be used? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Matthew, for the question. This is very interesting. I think following the NSEC declaration in the North Sea declaration in May, and now with the Marienburg declaration and counting everything, we are already at 61 gigawatts of commitments by 2030, which exceeds what we wrote in 2020 in the offshore strategy of the EU. So already the member states are more ambitious than what we said in 2020 in our Commission strategy. So that's massive. And in terms of potential, I think the Baltic Sea basin is second after the North Sea basin. But might actually accomplish development a bit faster because we don't have the issue of the third country. So the issue with the UK there, because the UK for NSEC was a key partner, and now that still has to be dealt with how cooperation will work there. Yeah, now, of course, in Marienburg, all the member states around the Baltic Sea agreed to a figure by 2030. According to the TENI regulation, we will soon have figures for 2040 and 2050. So that's a deliverable of the TENI regulation, that we will have offshore sea basin goals for all sea basins that will allow the integrated planning. And that's where I wanted to go with that, because the integrated planning of the grids will ensure that we will be able to take up all this energy that comes from our sea basin. So that's the scope of this integrated plan, to take together, put together everything that is committed by the member states, all the other uses of the sea basin, and Gosha already hinted at that we have to work together with the other users of the sea basin, environmental protection also, because that also needs to be taken into account in order to make sure that all the energy is integrated into the grids and eventually used.
Thank you. Yes, we will come onto that. Thank you for that answer. 61 gigawatts already committed to by 2040, was that?
2030.
2030. Okay, thank you. Magosha, did you have anything to comment on the importance of the Baltic?
Yes, so let me maybe just zoom out a bit. So indeed, Commission.
Sorry, folks. Yeah, and I think there's another one on just on the back. Anke, hopefully everybody heard Anke answers. You seem very clear to me.
Do I need to do anything, or do I need to do anything with the microphone, or it's on? Maybe it's on. Maybe it's not.
Now I can hear you coming.
Yeah, it's okay. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I wanted to just zoom out a little bit to show the bigger picture. The European Commission put huge ambition and targets on the offshore wind and then also we see that all the offshore countries, they keep increasing the targets in the last couple of months. We expect that the 85% of the offshore wind capacity by 2050 is going to be in the Europe's North Seas. So we're talking about the Atlantics, we're talking about the North Seas, the Irish Sea as well. But that's where we have very good wind speeds, and we have also, it's very close to the demand. We have also very good supply chain over there already developed. Then this is equivalent to 380 gigawatts out of the 450 gigawatts that the Commission wants. The remaining 70 gigawatts will be then located in the southern seas, the southern European seas. So again here, I'm coming back to the floating. So we are able, because of the technology, we are able to go to the seas that are deep, and because we don't need to rely only on the bottom fixed wind turbines. So then if we do that, I'm sorry, I'm just looking here to make sure that I have the calculations right. So if we do all the calculations right, then we're looking at the rest being delivered by the offshore in the Baltic Sea, which is 93 gigawatts of offshore wind by 2050. Now, that's huge potential, especially if we think that now the only two countries that have large wind projects in the Baltics are Germany and Denmark. Yeah, Poland has huge ambition. We heard about Lithuania. We see that Finland, Sweden, they are also coming to the game and planning their offshore wind farms by 2030. Some even faster. But it's a lot of it. It's in the plans, their targets. Yeah, so potential is huge, but we just need to make sure that we overcome huge challenges that we have in front of us. That we learn from the players that are already very active, experienced. That we learned also from the countries that are role modeling and put the right auction schemes in place, for example, and ticked all the right boxes in order to make sure that indeed the targets, the plans are turned into a reality, especially that we really don't have that much time to act on it.
Thank you very much, Małgosia. Bruce, could you put that in some context for us with the electricity generation in general? The importance. Yeah, let's get a microphone. The importance of wind generation within renewables and within the bigger sort of electricity generation picture. Now that we've sort of put some numbers on it and some timescales, how does Eurelectric see the importance of these opportunities?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks, Matthew. It's incredibly important. As you saw from my graphs, the importance now of a fast rollout of renewables is critical to European energy security, yeah, and customer engagement going forward. So I won't dig into the details, Małgosia's on the wind power side, she's giving you the numbers from the leading experts on wind. But from a wider electricity generation portfolio, you saw the numbers that I showed, which is that with the energy security now being the top priority, really the top priority, the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the subsequent energy price crisis is not going away. We forecast at least 12 to 24 months of crisis. Yeah. Now, offshore wind will not solve that in the very short term. Let's be clear, but it has enormous potential for the medium to long term, and we need to take decisions now and make commitments now and start working towards that now in order to solve that for the future. Yeah. Both for energy security, but of course for climate change. Offshore wind provides a secure, clean, and affordable local power generation for Europe. And I think those are the key words. And if you listen to the rhetoric of the US, China, and other regions, they talk now about friendshoring, about maintaining their own secure supply of energy. I think Europe needs to take that stance now and invest today, not just financially, but with resources in terms of the permitting processes and intellect we have. Learning from the past, as Małgosia said, learning lessons from the regions that have done it already and implementing that in the Baltic region, which has, as we saw, 90 gigawatts of potential or more. Yeah. And as I said, that's equivalent to 40% of the current gas importation from Russia. So it's not insignificant. It'll take some years to develop, but imagine a future where that is developed, then we have that secure supply here locally in Europe.
Thanks very much, Bruce. Okay, well, based on the fact that it's conditions are ripe at the moment for investment in wind, based on the fact how important you, so the Association for Electricity Players, is concerned, that it's important. You can't underestimate its importance for our decarbonisation plans. So then the question is, and I suppose this helps us sort of get to the nitty-gritty of why we're here today. It's a very, very turbulent environment that we're seeing at the moment. I guess the reassuring thing straight away is it's great to see that the plans for wind are unaffected, that you're going forward with it. But still, based on its affordability, based on how important it is for climate, based on how it's good for what good business can be, why not more? And I guess this leads on to the question that I have for you, Wanda, which is, what are your concerns? With such conditions, it's clearly beneficial. Why are PGE not planning to do a lot more than this? And I guess Hugo, also you could talk about it too. Isn't it a case of the more you do, the more successful it is for everybody? Why put a limit on it? Why can't work with see more? What are the obstacles that you see from PG's point of view?
Oh my God, so
I can simplify it if you like, but
no, thank you. Can you hear me? It's okay? Is the mic on? Okay. So actually, we are very proud with our project, and we thought that we perceived ourselves very ambitious, and now you are saying that we are that we are limiting ourselves. Okay.
Don't get me wrong.
Take the point.
6.5 gigawatts sounds huge, but there are limits on what any organization can do.
Well, maybe now it's fine. Okay. Actually, to put it in the context, right now we have PG has 18 gigawatts of installed capacity. So, investment into 6.5 of offshore wind farms till 2030 is, well, I would say it's a huge investment, because in total adding photovoltaics and onshore, well, let's agree that we do not agree on our on assessing our plans. That's fine. But what my concerns? Well, I don't have concerns about for example, not the scarcity of demand. I think that demand for the electricity will be growing, because we are in the process of electrification, the heat and other sectors and transport and so on. And because of the regulations, the offshore wind farms and renewables are in the much more advantageous position. So for sure, it's from the business point of view, business-wise, it's a very, very, very good investment. But what raised my concern is the fact that we right now, like Baltic Sea, we see the potential on the Baltic Sea. Every country do its best to speed up and to deliver as much as possible. Well, my concern is about the potential of the market, to deliver those investments on time, because whether there is sufficient potential from the producer's perspective and so on. This is there will be so many. There will be many projects ongoing at the same time, and I think that may affect schedule and obviously the budget. As I said during my presentation, we're gonna make Baltica 3 and Baltica 2 respectively operable respectively in 2026 and 2027. And we do our best. We are on track when it comes to the schedule, but we are observing also, because of the inflation rate and everything that happens on the market, in the economy in the whole world, that probably will be beyond budget. Maybe so, not beyond the schedule. Let's keep our fingers crossed for that. We do really our best.
I guess what I was alluding to was the fact that despite ambitions, despite the opportunities to invest, and how a company and organization like PG or nation on a national basis, conditions are pretty good at the moment to invest in wind, but there are limiting factors. For example, making sure that the wind is used. Anka already talked about that. Making sure that because this all affects the competitiveness of wind. But the ability to integrate it into our systems, these type of things that actually are limiting factors, because it seems to me that if anything, it's not. I think Boris, bless him, Boris Johnson, one of his last speeches on energy, he said, well, wind energy is the cheapest electricity available, but it's not the whole truth, Anka. I mean, sure, you spin the turbine, the electricity comes up at a very, very low cost. But then you've got to worry about storage, integration, and issues around balancing and dispatchable power. And does this slow down investment, or is the picture really rosy? I mean, we're going to see these capacities taken advantage of. PG making a significant step there. Would PG be in a position to do more if things were ready on a system basis?
Thanks a lot. Yes, you're right. Everything needs to be in place for wind investments to pick up. And I think Euroelectric already pointed to this. We have to take the decision now because everything takes a lot of time to actually be developed. So we need a holistic approach in planning that already happens now. So to develop a renewable project, you can take, hopefully with the new rules, up to, I don't know, 2 to 5 years, even less, with the new permitting provisions that we've put forward now with the REPowerEU package. But to develop grids, we know already that the lead time is much, much longer. And in order for the grids, the storage, to be there, you need to take the decision already now. So it's all about planning. You do a holistic plan where you put in all the political targets, and then everybody has transparency and starts working on its implementation. And it also achieves investor certainty. So when an investor sees a clear strategy for going forward, moving to reaching our targets and then towards the climate objective for 2050, climate neutrality objective, then it's clear where there is space for them to invest. So this unfortunately goes beyond short-term measures and what we are doing now to address the energy crisis. It has to look beyond that and has to look what do we want to achieve in 2050 and take the political decision already now for that.
Thank you very much. Małgorzata, did you want to add something?
Thank you. Look, the problems that you've mentioned, those are not the core problems right now. Yeah, it's possible when we have countries with very high level of integration of renewables, like I've mentioned in my opening remarks. You have 43% in Denmark, 32% in Portugal. So it is possible. Yeah, and when we look at the current technology today, it's much easier to manage the energy systems with large scale of wind. And the wind turbines also are much more flexible now. You have very long blades that are able to capture wind at very low wind speeds. So and storage also is a technology that is developing. Really, what is the huge problem now is the supply chain. Yeah. So is a supply chain that needs to deliver those huge on those huge targets. Yeah. And we want this to be, we want to have European industry. Yeah. We want to have European local content. We want to have European factories. We want to increase the number of jobs. We want to make sure that the wind that is delivered is made in Europe by Europeans in the most sustainable and circular way. Yeah. And must be the cheapest. Yeah. So the huge pressure on the price is driving this industry out of Europe. Yeah, if you combine it with this huge bottlenecks in permitting, yeah, the volumes are simply not there. Yeah, our factories are operating at 70% of their capacity. Yeah, so on one hand, it's a good news because we know that there much more can be delivered. On the other hand, yeah, they are operating 70%. Yeah, all of them are making loss. Yeah, all of them are operating at loss. We have 5 European manufacturers, and none of them is making profit. Yeah, the projects we need to you asked Vanda about the challenges. The offshore projects are very capex heavy. They take a long time to develop. Yeah, and now imagine you signed the contract with your supply chain. You sign those contracts. Sometimes it's 10 years before the project actually gets online. So those contracts are not indexed. Yeah. Now you look at what happened in the last couple of months. Yeah. The commodity prices. Yeah. The steel price. The prices of transport. The energy prices. Yeah. Everything is really putting the cost to the very high level.
Just to be clear, that squeeze is coming from international competition.
That squeeze is coming not only from the international competition, and that's not, that the main that squeeze is coming mainly from the pressure on prices. Yeah, you have now you have negative. The auction design would allow you for negative bidding. Negative bidding means that the developer would pay huge amount of money just for the permission to build a wind farm. Yeah. So then what happens with the cost? Yeah, the developer needs to pay upfront this huge amount of money and then pushes the cost to the supply chain. Yeah, it comes to OEM, to cable manufacturer. That we need this at this amount of money, otherwise this project will not happen. So this pressure is huge. Of course, then the permitting bottlenecks do not help. So basically, you don't have the visibility of projects. You don't have the constant supply of the projects. So the companies, the factories are operating not at the full capacity, which means also huge cost that goes for nothing.
The 500 gigawatts you talked about in total across Europe.
450.
Say again?
450.
450. Sorry, shouldn't round up to a lot of gigawatts. 450 gigawatts. How does that compare with what we can expect from onshore? Is onshore just too difficult?
Onshore is going to be the main generation. Yeah, it's everyone is talking about offshore, but it's onshore that's going to deliver the most of the renewables target. Yeah, and when you say too difficult, we have very similar problems. Yeah, the permitting, huge problem with permitting. Again, I want to highlight because this is something that's been I think in the public political opinion for a long time, that is the opposition also of people living next to wind farms. Actually, we have really the percentage of people that are actually in favor of wind farms is the highest among the people that live close to the wind farm. Yeah, so when we talk about the permitting bottlenecks, we're talking about very complex procedures, very lengthy administration, and that's what really slows down the development.
Thank you. Jurga, did you want to say anything about the question of the limits or scale of your ambitions, or just on this point before we move on to last point?
Thank you. I believe that everybody knows that this very complex project to be developed, and the government is ready to do everything in its power to speed up.
I think it's on, but it's just
to speed up and create conditions in permitting, in regulation. Also, the energy, the grids and operators will be learning by doing, actually, to accept this new generation and of power, and this will be a very complex, also including like development of the seaports to be able to transport and accept all these huge volumes of offshore wind turbines that they have to be assembled and brought back into the sea. So but I also agree that the main bottleneck that could happen is this from supply side, as we already have the shortage of the underwater cables and other technologies that are needed for successfully develop the project, and many countries are now competing for these projects and developing them, and around the Baltic Sea, the Latvia and Estonia as well are preparing their own projects of the offshore wind. So and Lithuania and Poland and everybody around the Baltic Sea. So that will be a tough task.
Thank you very much. One thing we haven't talked about before we come to questions from the audience, I hope you're ready with some questions, was the sort of structure of the deals. You talked about contracts for difference and the auction system, what have you. What's your feeling, Wanda? Is it working in the current system? Has it worked for you at PGE where you've been successful? How do you see things going forward?
Well, first I can only tell about contracts for difference that that has been already approved by the Commission. At the moment that we submitted the motion, the application, well, it was justified. Right now, of course, the situation has changed because of the inflation rate, because of the situation on the market and in the economy. So actually, I would expect, and PGE would expect, to adjust the contract for difference to current situation. Otherwise, it wouldn't make the investment possible on schedule. But there's also one thing about that I haven't mentioned before, and I think, and it's about cost and the cost of these investments. As you said, Małgosia, these are the offshore wind farms are huge when it comes to capex, and I can tell you from the perspective of the company which is in the decarbonization process, because I started with the fact that we are right now generating 40% of electricity in Poland, but mostly we are doing this with basing on coal and hard coal and lignite. As I already said, we have very ambitious plan, and we are doing our investment as fast as possible. But because of that, actually the problems, let's say, adversities are growing, because we have every day it's getting more and more difficult to get financing, and I'm not talking about grants or donation or some kind of support, but I'm talking about the access to get the possibility to get the finance from the financial institutions, because they are no longer willing to give the credits and to the companies that are still, let's say, they call us dirty companies. So the brown one or the black one. So actually, at the same time, we have to pay for EU ETS allowances, and of course there is a redistribution system behind the EU ETS, and probably it will, if the windfall tax will be implemented, but still it affects the liquidity of the companies now, and it affects our possibility to decarbonize in the pace that we would expect. So this is very, very complex issue, and not only covered by the auctioning or contract for differences, but also for the whole for the environment surrounding our existence and operating.
Thank you very much. Did you want to add anything there, Anka?
You want?
Yeah, no, thanks a lot. I think your position is very interesting, and all the efforts that Poland is doing to decarbonize, while at the same time maintaining energy security, of course, are extraordinary. And I don't think this is captured enough now in all the debates about financing. So I would actually want to invite you. On the 29th of September, we have a stakeholder forum for BEMIP to discuss the offshore wind working program, and maybe you could come and present this as a financing issue there.
Thank you very much.
Sounds like a
I
date.
will be there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much to all our panelists today discussing wind. I'm sure now there must be some questions for the huge opportunity, very important opportunity for Europe's generation organizations to invest in wind. So I hope that we have some microphones at the back there, or over here. Okay. Who has a question for the panel, please? Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much, and all the panelists and their information that they actually shared with us.
Could I just ask your name and which company
Yes,
you represent? Thank you.
Yes, Kilian from the EAS.
Okay. Killian from EAS. Okay.
Yes. Yes, good questions. A question to Wanda. Question to
Anka.
Anka, yes. Right. Wanda, knowing the fact that we are issues with the importation of coal from Russia, and coal is one of those that have increased in the production of power. Okay, we have got a drop in the hydro due to the drought that has taken place. What other opportunities do you see to protect ourselves from load shedding. That's in the near future, especially in the winter. And the question to Anka is, what's the budget in the programming period of 2021, 2027, which is directed to wind production? Are there any adjustments due to the differences that we are having at the moment? Is there any change in the budget itself? Thank you so much.
So, Wanda, if you wanted to kick off, so under current conditions,
Yeah.
the dangers of us falling back to using more coal.
Actually, Poland was a precursor to implement embargo on Russian coal because Polish government decided to stop import from Russia, the coal from Russia in March, and when it comes to state-owned companies, we never used Russian coal to generate the power, but well, some other companies use it. So the situation in Poland right now is, well, actually, Prime Minister obliged state-owned companies to import coal from other directions, and also among these companies there is PGE. So we are doing this, and we will be, at least I can speak from PGE perspective, PGE will deliver the required amount of, will import the required amount of the coal to Poland on time. I mean, the required amount is the amount that was that we were obliged to import according to the decision issued by the Prime Minister. So this is, short-term solution clearly, and when it comes to long-term solutions, well, I think that upcoming winter will tell us a lot about the potential of Europe and the whole world without Russia on board. And only after the winter we'll be able to responsibly create the strategy for the next years.
Thank you, Wanda. And the other question, the budgets for offshore and their decks.
Yeah.
Very specific, 6 years to 27, I think.
Yeah, a very specific question, less specific answer, because there's no easy answer. But we do, in the context of the offshore strategy, we do monitor funding for offshore renewables. So first of all, I would mention the Connecting Europe facility, where 15% of the current budget, which is 5.85 billion, can be allocated to cross-border renewable energy projects. So there's already been a call for proposal for studies. Already very soon we will have the first union list of cross-border renewable energy projects, and then they will be able to apply for financing. So just to recall, these are projects that have a cross-border dimension, where the coordination between two member states is proven in this respect. And of course, I would also like to mention the RRPs, where a lot of member states are focusing their investments on renewable energy projects. So I think the Belgian RRP is the only one that mentions the energy island, the one they're planning with the Netherlands and Denmark. But also many other member states have renewable development in their national recovery plans, and they will be financed through this facility.
Thank you very much, Anka. Bruce, you wanted to say something. I noticed in one of your slides, so you noticed an uptick in coal. So back to that one as well.
Well, yeah, it's inevitable that will uptake with reduction, as I showed in both nuclear, hydro, and gas reduction. So it's a great question about the balance between supply and demand. And in addition to the diversification of supply, that Wanda mentioned, we should exploit all possible production opportunities for electricity. But I think more importantly, in the short term, it has to be demand moderation. So we say energy sobriety and flexibility. So really saving energy, both in gas and electricity. The economics normally would say high prices is the solution to high prices. That would lead to demand destruction. Not in this case, and not fast enough. So we, as a community, both residential and industrial energy consumers, need to take it seriously. But again, I think the policymakers, we look to the Commission tomorrow or maybe Wednesday to come with proposals to assist and support with that demand moderation. It won't be enough, but it'll go a long way to solving the potential issues that you mentioned. Thanks.
Thank you, Bruce. Another question from the audience. Yes. You could make your way to the mic. Thank you. If you could introduce yourself and your organization, if appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentations. I'm Shirley Yada. I lead the Sustainable Finance Program at Think Tank. Wanda, I think your point around the challenges for financing for such a huge project and the need to make sure that the sustainable finance regulatory system works to support these for companies that have other activities, put it in a different category than just green is really critical. And I think that's where questions around transition finance come up. So that is a really valid point, and it's something that we're very curious to see how we can address more. My question is, I think, mostly for Bruce and perhaps also Margosha. It's picking up on these challenges around the financing. You've noticed and you've noted in your presentations that there is an investment gap to make the most of these offshore wind projects. What do you see the biggest challenges being in terms of raising the capital for this? What are some of the different instruments and the ways that this is being addressed in your experience?
Maybe I take the grids, the interconnectors first, and leave Margosha to talk about the wind investments. But as you saw from my presentation, we're not so far off. We're currently seeing a 10% increase year on year on the grid investment, and that's both hardware, infrastructure, software, digitalization. We need to get to 40% increase per year, and it's somewhere around 400 billion euros by 2030 in the distribution grid network. But that sounds like a huge amount of money. But honestly, when you compare that to the oil and gas infrastructure or road infrastructure, policymakers and we as the industry need to consider, what do you want to prioritize as a region? And we would advocate strongly for stronger grids, which would then facilitate the integration of large amounts of wind, offshore wind, other renewables, and the flexibility that would allow us to protect ourselves from the current energy crisis. The biggest barrier being probably permitting at the moment for interconnectors. Yeah, the investment is there, but we need support from policymakers to help push that forward. Thanks.
Margosha.
Thank you for this question. If I could actually maybe go back to Killian's questions as well. I think if I understood right, you asked a question whether there's any public fund for wind. And there's no public fund for wind. Yeah, there might be or I would like to know, actually, there's one. But there is we would have a public fund for research. We would have public fund for interconnection, for those energy islands, for innovation. Yeah, but there's no such a thing like offshore, onshore wind. Those are going to be developed through either auctions, well-designed auctions. Well, sometimes it's well-designed, sometimes less well-designed, but auctions that are basically contracts between the government and the developer, or through PPAs, which are power purchase agreements. When you have a private company that wants to sign a contract directly with the developer for a long period of time to get this green electricity from the grid. Or you have smaller projects that can be then financed through community projects that basically is community that decides to build a wind farm and gets financing for it. To go to the other question, there is no gap in investment. There is a huge investors' appetite to finance wind projects. The problem is that there is no visibility and there's no stability. And this is no different to any other sector, any other industry. Yeah, those are very capex heavy projects. You need a lot of money. The money is out there. It's just that you don't want to invest in projects that 2 years later it's going to get taxed backwards. Yeah, so clawback measures that are now being discussed. For example,
That's the stability element. On the visibility.
On
what do you mean by
visibility is for the volumes, yeah, that you have you look, for example, the leading offshore market is UK, yeah. They have long-term plans, so they give visibility to the investors on the volumes. So then the investors can prepare, they can build their local supply chain, yeah, because they know that there will be a pipeline, constant pipeline on projects, yeah. This way you can invest in the local supply chain. You can invest, you can make plans that are decreasing the cost, and this is the best model, possible model right now.
Okay, I would hopefully you're happy with this question. I'm going to take one question from somebody who's watching online. Diana, sorry, my phone has gone to sleep. So this is it's actually, the question has been asked a couple of times by different people, but this is from Diana Powers, appropriate name. And this is for you, Wanda, and it says, will PGE use green hydrogen to integrate offshore wind power? I guess you understand what's meant by the question.
Well, we do not exclude also this direction, but it's not the time for us now we are not there yet. So we are working on different technologies. For example, we want our electrode boilers to be fed by the electricity from our offshore wind farms on the Baltic Sea, so we could we could deliver renewable heat to our customers in Trójmiasto. But of course, when it comes to green hydrogen, well, we are observing the market, we are assessing the situation, and we do not exclude anything in the future.
Thank you very much. Another question from our audience here. Yes, the gentleman on the other right.
Hello, thank you very much. It's Fernando Lopez from the Department of Climate Change. My question is for all the panelists, because you highlighted some of the barriers already for the deployment of offshore wind. You highlighted fixed permitting, you highlighted funding, but if you have to choose one as the main concern, the main barrier, which one would you choose? Just to see that more or less everybody agree on the main priority.
Bruce, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I would echo Malgosha's point about supply chains. We need to correctly value offshore wind and clean and renewable power generally. So without that, the OEMs are making a loss. That's unsustainable, and so I would say, fix that first. The others things can be fixed, can be accelerated. The REPower EU goes some way to accelerating permitting. There's no-go zones, as they say, but there is an immediate and significant issue around that supply chain topic.
Thank you. In our energy mix, we think about all renewable. It's solar and hydro and biomass for heating and onshore and offshore wind power. And in this respect, I must say that the hydrogen came into the picture as well as a possible addition to the offshore, as the offshore wind is seen as the best possible source for the green energy to produce the hydrogen in the future. Of course, it is in very initial phase now for us. Maybe the main obstacle is the complexity of the project, as it will be the first project of such magnitude in Lithuania. So to make sure that all elements of it work, including in the government, in operator and in investor and financial and supply sides of the project. So to make sure that it runs smoothly, it will be the most maybe tricky thing to achieve.
There should be one there, yeah.
Thank you. The biggest challenge, I would say, permitting. The immediate challenge is the supply chain. Yeah, it's the supply chain. If we want to keep the supply chain in Europe, we have to act now. And then we are looking also into some public funding right now to see whether we can support the European companies that are really struggling right now.
Thank you. So I think I would join in saying that the immediate obstacle is the supply chain. We see it in all the grids. All the grids in the EU are significantly delayed right now, with increased costs even reaching 150%. So that's a huge issue. But then in the long term, I think it's planning, and I think it goes into what Malgosia was saying: a need for a comprehensive long-term planning to give investors certainty, which would solve hopefully many of the issues.
I'm into mind whether this is the supply chain and the accessibility of the components that we need to deliver investments, or whether this is the financial issues that and getting through the transformation with this whole with this whole environment that's surrounding us, and with this growing difficulties to have an access to financing. So those two are very significant from the perspective of the company which is in the process of decarbonization.
Thanks, Rhonda. I'm looking at you, Tom. How much time do we have? Yeah, okay, well, thanks very much to all of you. If you've got further questions, then please email them in. Energy Post, we have been asked to do a write-up of today, so we've had somebody watching the event, and we will post a report in the coming days. Fascinating, thank you so much. It's nothing simple in energy, and you've really kind of explained the complex issues surrounding this. Obviously, a new highlight today was the issues around supply chain. Permitting, we know is difficult. But the conditions are so good for investors, so we can look positively forward and expect such large volumes from, you know, let alone just from the people on the panel here, but in general, the numbers are super impressive. There's many more questions about whether the system is ready. Obviously, from your side, Bruce, you were saying that we've got to see massive investment in infrastructure. You're talking multi-hundreds of billions. On the other hand, you know, it needs to go hand in hand with development of the capacities, I guess. And Malgosia, you made the point earlier that you felt that, you know, if somebody has got the wind generation, it'll get used. But I guess these things need to grow together, and that was one thing I'd like to look out for. We'll see how things develop. Thanks very much. It's been a pleasure for me to host the event. I want to thank the Polish Embassy, Andrzej Sadosz, for hosting us today, and to all our panelists, and especially to all of you. It's great to be at a physical event for the first time in 2 years for Energy Post. Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you.
I didn't get to come to you for final comments. The time ran away. I'm sorry.
Umieram.